Hello, and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Tucker. Today we will be making a drinking game for Halloween Kills, which was released very recently in theaters. Much like the 2018 Halloween, it was once again directed by David Gordon Green and written by Green, Danny McBride, and Scott Teems.
Halloween Kills takes place immediately after the 2018 version. Michael Myers is trapped inside Laurie's basement as he will likely burn to death. However, firefighters come to his rescue just in time to save him, so it isn't a 5-minute movie. 3 final girls go to the hospital to heal from their fight, and the word of Michael Myers' return starts to spread throughout the town of Haddonfield.
As this is a new movie, we will not be talking about spoilers since we like to present it to an audience that is still skeptical about the film and may want to see it. We will be using some footage from the trailers, however, so just be aware of that. We will post our drinking rules on the screen now if you would prefer to watch the movie first. Now let's get on to the rules.
The first rule we have for each drinking game is death. You see somebody die, you take a sip. As this is a new movie, we will not be counting the total number of drinks like we normally do to keep this movie as spoiler-free as possible.
This evening, 4 bodies were discovered.
The next rule that we will always have here on Cheers to Fears is that if you hear somebody scream, cry, or yell, you take a sip.
Run! Go now!
For each Halloween drinking game that we make, we will always have a set of rules that will go along with every one of those movies. To start off, if you hear somebody say Halloween, or it is said in text, you take a sip.
Hey, what are you guys doing out here? It's Halloween. We've been trick-or-treating.
Next up, we have a rule that we are kind of skeptical adding in since it always seems to have a rather high number of sips. But we will anyways. That rule is if you see a pumpkin on screen, take a sip.
We will now present a classic rule for many slasher movies of the 80s. That rule is if you see somebody partaking in a slasher sin, you take a sip. Some slasher sins that we recommend drinking to is when people get intimate to each other, drinking, partaking in drugs, or splitting up.
This marks the halfway point of our rules. We are going to start that off with if you hear Michael or Myers being said, you take a sip.
Michael!
The previous rule is not the only one that has to do with Michael Myers. This rule states that if you happen to see the antagonist Michael Myers on screen, you take a sip.
We have one more additional rule that will never change for the Halloween franchise because of how iconic it is. That rule is if you hear the Halloween theme song, you must take a sip.
Now we have come to 2 rules that we have exclusively for Halloween Kills. The first of which is if Judith Myers' window is mentioned, or if you see somebody staring out of it, you take a sip.
Now we have come to our 10th and final rule for this drinking game. The rule that closes our list is if somebody mentions how Michael must die, you take a sip. This also includes people calling Michael Myers by a different name, such as the Boogeyman or Evil.
Evil dies tonight!
And that is it for our list of Halloween Kills rules. This is just a quick reminder that we did not end up counting the rules for this movie, as it would be a tad bit weird to bring a pen and paper into theaters to tally our list of rules. If you do end up playing the drinking game, however, feel free to leave us a comment and let us know how it was for you.
So yeah, like you said, we are obviously not keeping a tally for the drinks, but we can tell you one thing for sure, is there's a lot of deaths.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be a lot of pumpkins, let's be honest. And with the rule that refers to Michael being killed in some way, that's going to be a double up rule. So every time someone says Michael Myers must die, that's 2 drinks.
Yeah.
So this might be a difficult drinking game, but that's okay. Most of the Halloween movies are.
Yeah, definitely. Most of the Halloween movies have about 5 drinks, give or take.
Yeah.
The movie, however, it started off super strong. It did feel slow in some spots, such as some of the flashbacks I feel like went on for a little bit too long, but it was excusable for the most part just because of how enjoyable it was.
Yeah, like I like how the flashback looked. They kind of had an 80s feel to them.
Oh, definitely.
Which it made it kind of interesting and engaging to watch. And yeah, I kind of liked that style, I guess.
Yeah.
For the flashbacks.
Yeah, the cinematography for those were, I feel like, really well done, directed, produced. It felt really, really well done.
And yeah, overall the cinematography for the whole movie was good, not just for the flashbacks, but like for a modern horror movie with a huge budget like this, you would come to expect that.
Oh, definitely.
So you talked about the first act, and even the second act was fine. It was middle of the road, but it started to decline a little bit, in my opinion. But when it really took a fast downhill slope is the third act. I really didn't like it. The plot seemed everywhere, and it really didn't have a motive. It kind of did, but it didn't really. Like, the lynch mob, obviously their motive was to kill Michael, but that was it. And I don't know. It wasn't... I didn't like it. I didn't like the lynch mob.
Yeah, it felt very, very infuriating to me anyways.
Yeah.
Probably to a lot of other people. In saying that, there was a lot of plot conveniences, some with the lynch mob, I could say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Kills in the movie, however, we'll go on to that next. They were good, gory, lots of them, even comical at times, I'd say.
Oh, yeah. There was a couple kills that we literally laughed out loud in the theater, but
Yeah.
I agree. The kills were really good, and they were gory, and they just looked super good. And there were so many of them, so that was, I would say, probably the most enjoyable part of the movie.
In the kills? Yeah, I
Yeah.
could say it. You
In
could
my
say that.
opinion, at
Yeah.
least.
I'd say the opening scenes, like especially the flashback scenes, I really got invested into, but that's
Yeah.
just me.
Yeah. So while the kills were well done and they looked super good, there was still a bit of a problem with that in the fact that Michael Myers was fighting so many people at once. Traditionally, we would see Michael fighting maybe like one, maybe two people at a time and just kind of go from person to person like that. But in this movie, we see him fight crowds of people, and it just seems... it doesn't suit Michael Myers, really.
Yeah, it feels like it's almost like Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee in a kung fu movie in a way,
yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yeah. So it is set in stone that Michael Myers is not after Laurie.
He's coming for me, but I'm coming for him.
He just cares about his house, maybe.
Yeah.
We mentioned it a little bit in our 2018 review, but it seems more or less confirmed now.
Yeah, well, they legitimately said it outright in the movie that he's not after Laurie, and rather it was her obsession with him that kept getting her in trouble with him.
Yeah.
And he was just there to go look out his sister's window.
Yeah, and even Allison kind of says like, yeah, no, Michael didn't come to the house. Crazy, I forgot his name already. Sartain drives us to the house, and then he wants to kill Laurie because she's there.
Yeah.
Basically circumstantial.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of Laurie, she isn't in this movie that much. I mean, we do see her throughout the entire movie, and we see her in a few scenes here and there, but the scenes are mostly her just laying in a hospital bed and
Yeah.
talking to the guy in there with her, or, you know, she gets out of bed once, maybe twice in the movie, I don't really...
Yeah. It's another Halloween 2 type of thing where she's just in a bed the entire movie.
Yeah, exactly. But at least it wasn't like Resurrection where she was just killed off in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
At least she kind of had a bit of a purpose in this movie.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, she was at least in the movie for more than 10 minutes, so...
Oh, yeah,
it's at
definitely.
least better, yeah. She can still be in a future installment, so that's good too. And I guess speaking of 2018, there was a few references of kind of fan servicey in the last one, like bringing back characters from the first movie. This one is just full-blown fan service, and they just tried to shove it down our throats for the most part.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there was Lonnie in the movie. It wasn't played by the same character as the original one, but the character returned. And then there's Tommy Doyle, which, fun fact, they actually wanted Paul Rudd to return for that role.
Yeah.
Which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. I think Akkad, the other third person besides Carpenter and Hill, was kind of wanted him to do it, but ultimately decided that it was way too distracting to have Paul Rudd in there. And I think there was also time conflictions, so they just decided to not have Paul Rudd in the movie.
Yeah, well, Paul Rudd had scheduling conflicts as well, so like it wouldn't have worked out either way, but I'm glad they didn't go with that.
I would have liked to see it. I mean, just because it is Paul Rudd. It would have been very distracting, though. Like, I do agree with that point.
Yeah, I do too.
I guess one more character that's in the movie is Lindsay, the little girl that was babysit by Annie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was played by Kyle Richards.
The exact same actress.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same actress as in the 1978 film.
So it was kind of neat, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. I like that callback. She's actually able to be in the sequel, more than likely anyways.
Yeah.
Also, Nancy Stevens as Marion Chambers is in the movie too.
Yeah. And we've seen her a few times throughout the franchise, and take it or leave it, she's fine, but
yeah,
it's just another point about the fan service.
Yeah, they're really reaching here.
Yeah.
Even Annie's dad, Officer Braggin's in the movie. He's like an old decrepit man.
Played by the same original actor.
Played by the same actor.
It's insane. But even Loomis in some capacity is there. It's all in flashbacks or, you know. So it was kind of neat to see the characters with their original actors coming back. But on the same note, it didn't do anything for the plot, and it was just there for like fans to be like, oh, I know that person. It's kind of cool that they're in the original.
Yeah.
That's all the point it serves. It doesn't forward the plot, like I said.
Yep, they only have to show up for one scene in the original movie, and it's fair game pretty much.
Yeah. One reference that I did like that I caught throughout the movie was on the porch of the Myers house. The two characters, Little John and Big John, had skeletons on their front porch, and they were made to look like the American Gothic painting, which are the two farmers, one standing there with a pitchfork and his wife. And there was the skeleton standing on the porch, and it looked like they were set up in that exact way as the painting. I thought that was kind of cool. I caught that and pointed it out, and yeah, it was just something I noticed.
For sure.
So with all that being said, what are your overall thoughts on this movie?
So I think it's fine compared to other Halloween movies. It's worth seeing if you're a fan of the franchise for sure. It's fairly fun to watch. There are some issues with the movie, obviously, though.
Yeah.
There's a ton of plot conveniences, but it's not enough to necessarily make the movie bad, I think, by at least my standards.
Yeah.
Again, we wouldn't really debate you if you had problems and said that the movie was bad because it had so many plot holes, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's worth watching at least once just to watch it. It's a fun watch because of the kills, I would say, mainly for me. The plot is nothing to run home about. Like, I don't know. It's just a fun watch if you don't think too much about it.
Yeah, definitely.
This is normally where we would have the Darwin Awards, but as this is a new movie, we will not be handing one out this time around. Even though we think there's many potential winners. Seriously, you could likely just pick somebody at random, and we could probably figure out something on why they deserve the Darwin Award.
And with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed our look into Halloween Kills, along with every other installment in the Halloween franchise. If you ended up playing the game alongside the movie, or if you have any other feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below. Also let us know in the comments where you would rank this Halloween movie and compare to the other ones.
Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss the next week's episode, where we are going to be making a list on where we rank each and every Halloween movie. It's Liquored Lists, Halloween edition. If you want to check out our most recent video on 2018's Halloween, click on the box on the top right. Or if you want to see a playlist of all the drinking games we've made for the Halloween franchise, click on the box below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, cheers to fears.
What do?
We fight.